I'll never forget the day I walked into that calculus class. It was my first day at a new university, and I was nervous. I'd always loved math. It was like a puzzle to me, something I could lose myself in for hours. But this was different. This was a big, intimidating lecture hall filled with students who seemed so sure of themselves. I was the only black student in the room, and I could feel the weight of everyone's eyes on me as I took my seat near the back. The professor, Dr. Grayson, was an older man with a sharp voice and an even sharper tongue. He had a reputation for being tough, but I wasn't prepared for what happened next. He was going over the syllabus, explaining how the class would work when he noticed me sitting there. He paused, looked right at me and said, "You sure you're in the right place? This is advanced calculus, not remedial math." The room went silent. My face burned. I could feel the other students staring, some whispering. I wanted to disappear, but instead, I straightened my back, looked him in the eye, and said, "Yes, sir, I'm in the right place." He smirked, like he didn't believe me, and moved on. But I made a promise to myself right then and there. I was going to prove him wrong. The weeks went by, and I threw myself into the work. I stayed up late solving problems, read every chapter twice, and even helped some of my classmates when they struggled. But Dr. Grayson never seemed to notice. He'd call on me during class, always with that same skeptical look, like he was waiting for me to fail. It was exhausting, trying to prove myself over and over again, but I refused to give up. Then came the midterm exam. I remember sitting at my desk, my heart pounding as I flipped through the questions. They were hard, really hard, but I'd studied every angle. I worked through each problem methodically, double-checking my answers until time was up. When I handed in my exam, I felt a strange mix of relief and fear. What if it wasn't enough? What if he still didn't believe in me? When Dr. Grayson handed back the graded exams the next week, he had that same smirk on his face. He started calling out names, placing each paper face down on the desks. When he got to mine, he paused. "Mr. Carter," he said, his voice dripping with sarcasm, "I hope you're ready for this." I took the paper, my hands shaking. I flipped it over and saw the grade at the top, 100%. Perfect. I looked up, and for the first time, Dr. Grayson's smirk was gone. He cleared his throat and moved on, but I could tell he was stunned. After class, he called me to his desk. "Mr. Carter," he said, his tone softer now, "I have to admit I underestimated you. This is the highest score in the class. How did you do it?" I took a deep breath. "I've always loved math, sir. I just needed someone to believe in me." He looked at me for a long moment, then nodded. "Well, consider me a believer." From that day on, everything changed. Dr. Grayson became one of my biggest supporters. He started recommending me for research opportunities and even invited me to work on a project with him. It was like a door had opened, and suddenly, I could see a future I hadn't dared to dream of before. But it wasn't just about the grades or the opportunities. It was about proving to myself that I belonged, that I could succeed no matter what anyone else thought. And it was about showing Dr. Grayson, and everyone else, that you can't judge someone by the color of their skin or the assumptions you make about them. That class didn't just teach me calculus. It taught me to believe in myself, no matter what anyone else thought. It taught me that sometimes the people who doubt you the most can become your greatest allies if you give them the chance to see who you really are. And it taught me that no matter how hard things get, you can always rise above. You just have to keep going, one problem at a time.